Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the killer of Emma Caldwell, Ian Packer, loses his appeal to shorten his 36-year sentence for her murder. Also on tonight's programme, parents fear for their children's prospects as Glasgow City Council axes more teaching posts. Just 6 days lie between Inverness, Cally Thistle and administration will make the people fighting for the club's future. Embracing nature, why conservation groups are rallying to ensure the Scottish Government enshrines its environmental targets in law.
Coming up in the sport, Celtic sign Barcelona defender Alex Valle, with more signings expected at Parkhead before the transfer window shuts.
Plus, they're cock of the walk in Dunfermline. The colourful character has been granted the freedom of Scotland's ancient capital. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. The serial rapist who's serving life for the murder of Emma Caldwell has failed in his attempt to have his jail sentence reduced. Ian Packer was ordered to spend at least 36 years in prison after being convicted earlier this year. Today, a panel of judges said this sentence should stand. Joanne Macaulay reports.
Emma Caldwell went missing in April 2005 when she was 27. Her body was found the following month in Limefield Woods in South Lanarkshire. But it wasn't until this year that 51-year-old Ian Packer was finally convicted of her murder, after a BBC Scotland investigation helped to pave the way for his arrest. He was also found guilty of other charges, including 11 rapes and multiple sexual assaults. Packer was jailed for life and ordered to serve at least 36 years behind bars, the second longest sentence ever handed out in Scotland. But today at the Court of Criminal Appeal in Edinburgh, his lawyers argued that the sentence was excessive.
Ian Packer's defence advocate, Gordon Jackson KC, asked if it was acceptable in a civilised society to tell a man in his 50s that he will not be released until he's in his 80s. Mr Jackson said it is not, and in a civilised society we should not be doing that.
But the panel of 3 judges hearing the appeal said they were satisfied the 36-year sentence should stand. Lawyers for the family say that is the right decision.
Mrs Caldwell, Emma's mother, and her family believe that justice was once again done today. Ian Packer was convicted of some 33 separate offences, of 11 rapes, and of course of the murder of Emma Caldwell. He will die a convicted killer and a serial rapist. As far as the family are concerned, the attention must now focus on the public inquiry.
Police have apologised for how the original inquiry was handled and admitted that Emma, her family and many other victims were let down. Joanne Macaulay, Reporting Scotland.
Parents of children with additional support needs have told BBC Scotland News they're concerned for their future after news of proposed cuts. As things stand, Glasgow City Council has already cut 172 teaching staff across its schools. These form part of their plans to dispense with 450 posts over 3 years. Teaching unions say the council and the Scottish Government are playing games over education cost-cutting. Ministers say the local authority risks losing out on millions of pounds of funding if it goes ahead with the plans. The council say that the current financial climate has left them with no choice. Our social affairs correspondent Lucy Adams has the story.
Austin is 7. He uses a wheelchair for much of his day and has a permanent feeding tube. His brother JJ has autism. Because of their additional support needs, the boys are the most likely to be affected by the cuts. Their mum, Leanne King, says schools are already cut to the bone and that kids are struggling to get enough support.
It makes me really angry. I just think to myself, like, these are the people of the future. Our children are going to be who are going to move on and become whatever they're going to become. And if you're not going to support them from the earliest level, then how are they supposed to function as adults?
Leanne is worried schools will be forced to drop important support groups, including those for kids with dyslexia like JJ.
We're just going to have children leaving without grades. We're going to have children hitting high school without having a dyslexia diagnosis. We're going to have children who are pushed into mainstream school that are not getting an education because they can't function in a classroom.
Glasgow is not the only council looking to make cutbacks. Edinburgh is now consulting on cuts of £10 million to its education budget, including reductions in staff. And Falkirk is looking at shortening its school week and sending pupils home at lunchtime every Friday. The Scottish Government has warned Glasgow and other councils that they face losing their share of a £145 million pot earmarked for maintaining numbers. However, as yet, that hasn't happened.
I would encourage local authorities to apply the priority that I think there has to be to maintaining teacher numbers and to ensuring that we have a strong teaching workforce able to educate our young people and to support and sustain the delivery of education in Scotland.
What puzzles us is why the Cabinet Secretary is not front and centre making that final decision and saying to Glasgow, you cannot go ahead with this or you will not receive this money. It's almost like some kind of game of chicken. There are teacher numbers that have already been cut in Glasgow. It's too late to be sitting around anymore. We need that decision and we need it now.
Local government body COSLA said it is concerned about the approach of the Scottish Government to date and that progress can't be made by focusing on teachers alone. Glasgow City Council said it is working to support head teachers and minimise the impact on schools, but that the current financial climate has forced its hand. But for pupils like JJ and Austin, that will be little reassurance. Lucy Adams, reporting Scotland.
Well, with me now is our news correspondent, Jamie McIver. Jamie, the strength of feeling here is clear, but what happens next?
Well, the job cuts are due over 3 years, Laura. 172 posts have gone already and more will follow. It's worth making the point that no teachers will be made redundant. This is all about not filling vacancies or not renewing the contracts of some temporary teachers. Now, remember, regular teachers play an important role in helping many children who've got additional support needs. Most of these children are in mainstream schools, but there are wider concerns too, not just about youngsters with ASN as it's called, but about the possible impact of cuts in a whole range of children. Bigger class sizes, for example, or teachers simply not being able to spend as much time devoted to each child as they would like to. The Children's Commissioner says she's concerned about the potential impact of cuts both in Glasgow and elsewhere. Now, Glasgow City Council argues that its decisions have been taken lawfully. It points to the pressure on its budget. It says the education service was protected from cuts for many years, but such is the financial pressure the council is facing. If it wasn't to explore cuts in education now, it would simply mean more cuts in another important service. The biggest teachers' union, the EIS, is very concerned though about all of this. It's currently in the process of preparing to ballot its members in Glasgow on possible strike action, and if they vote to strike, we could see action as early as the middle of October.
Yeah, I think we'll be returning to this story, won't we? Thanks, Jamie. 2 of the 6 men on trial in a major drugs case at the High Court in Glasgow have pled guilty after 2 days of evidence. Gerard Carbon and Ryan McPhee have admitted being involved in serious organised crime. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan reports.
At the start of what would have been the 3rd day of evidence in this trial at the High Court in Glasgow, defence lawyers announced that 2 of the men in the dock were changing their plea. Gerry Carbon admitted being involved in serious organised crime and in the production and supply of a Class C drug, Atizolam, in 2020. The charge said this had taken place at a series of addresses in Glasgow, Larkhall, East Kilbride, London and on an island resort off Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. The defence counsel for Ryan McPhee then told the court he was pleading guilty to the same charge on the same basis. Both men, who are from Glasgow, had not guilty pleas to other charges accepted by the prosecution. They were remanded in custody for sentencing at the end of the trial. 4 other men remain in the dock, 3 of them accused of involvement in an international drug smuggling operation. The jury has heard that in September 2020, a cargo of bananas at Dover was found to contain nearly a tonne of cocaine addressed to a business in Glasgow. The trial will continue tomorrow. David Cowan, reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
The Chancellor met the First Minister today in her first visit to Scotland since being appointed to the role. Rachel Reeves was welcomed by John Swinney in Glasgow. Both governments, north and south of the border, have pointed out the bleak state of the public finances, and the blame game continued before the meeting. The Chancellor accused the SNP of mishandling Scotland's finances, while the First Minister said he wanted an end to austerity.
There's a crisis in the public finances, and the last thing that Scotland needs is a continuation of Conservative austerity rebranded as Labour austerity. We don't need cuts in public expenditure, we need investment in the public services and in the public finances.
Well, the SNP government is as guilty as the Conservative government of spending more than they were bringing in. And now the Scottish Government are having to make difficult decisions. Anas Sarwar and the Labour opposition in Scotland were warning the SNP about the unsustainable situation they were in.
The man brought in to save Inverness Caley Thistle says that senior figures close to the football club have until Tuesday to avoid a plan to avoid administration. Alan Savage has put forward a proposal for directors and former directors to work with him for the benefit of the Inverness club. But admits the situation is a challenging one. Ian McInnes has more.
It's been a summer of chaos here, from talk of moves to Fife for training to potential cryptocurrency investors. But the perilous situation the club finds itself in was made clear today, with experts in administration and insolvency being consulted on the way forward.
Well, I've spoken to a guy called Brian Jackson, who's an expert in the A word and the I word, and he wants to arrange a meeting to explain to the board on Tuesday what the options are within that framework. But they're not. I don't think they're very nice, and there's no need to go there. The people that I'm asking for money have got the money.
Mr Savage today laid out 3 options. The first of those is that directors and former directors who were involved in land deals and plans for a battery farm put in more investment into the club. The second is that they look at crowdfunding from supporters and local businesses. And thirdly, most worrying for the supporters, is the threat of administration.
It's the thing that no fan wants to see happen to their football club. Clearly it's kind of a race against time, and he's obviously looking to former directors and board members to help be part of the solution, because he obviously feels that they're a big part of the problem for getting us into this mess.
The financial challenges are there for all to see. The draft accounts for 2024 show losses of £1.7 million. The current debt the club has is now in the region of £620,000, with current projections showing that another £400,000 will be needed by the end of the season.
Various clubs have gone into administration and seem miraculously to have emerged from it having shed goodness knows how much debt. I have never, in 30 years of, shall we say, Caley Thistle's extremely uncertain financial history, I've never known it to be as absolutely existential as this.
There's now also a call to arms to Highlanders the world over.
We would appeal to rich Indonesians all over the world and say, look, you've got a great education starting in Inverness. You've done very, very well. You know what state the club's in. Help out.
While administration would bring footballing sanctions, it could have an even bigger effect on this Highland club. Ian McInnes reporting Scotland in Inverness.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a 52-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the death of a woman in Glasgow. 23-year-old Brodie McGregor was found with serious injuries at a flat on Elmvale Street at Springburn at about 10:15 on Monday morning. It's been treated as murder. Miss McGregor died at the scene. Police inquiries are ongoing. Commercial mail and cargo deliveries by drones are becoming closer to reality following tests in Orkney. Of the 2 companies involved, Windracers says it's close to establishing a delivery route. It tested 100 kilo loads between Orkney's outer islands during summer, and Skyports is extending its trial with Royal Mail, testing smaller drones in harsher weather. Now, bats can get a bad rap sometimes, but they're actually an important indicator of how healthy and happy nature is, and their natural habitats are disappearing. Well, campaigners believe restoring nature for bats and other species should be as urgent as tackling climate change, and they want the Scottish Government to set legally binding targets on it next week through a natural environment bill when they set out their priorities for the year ahead. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
If you know where to look and have the technology to listen, our only true flying mammals can provide quite the show. And after a huge decline in the last century, bat numbers have now finally stabilised enough for them to be enjoyed.
I didn't expect to get that close to them. I didn't actually expect to see too many. I mean, they're coming within like 2 meters of us, so really, really cool.
Seeing an actual fantastic show, and to be able to hear them like this is amazing, absolutely amazing.
They're such fussy creatures that their presence is a strong indicator of a healthy habitat.
Our bats need insects fundamentally, they need places to roost, they need high quality environment to be able to move around. So all those factors are important to them. They need a landscape that functions. So if we manage land in a way that reduces insects or reduces the places that they can roost, then all of that is going to be a problem for them.
Bats are doing well again, but other species are not, and Scotland's been described as one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. In Dalkeith, researchers are exploring how planting native trees now can help support bats in 50 to 100 years. They love the nooks and crannies of older, decaying trees, but that takes some planning.
This is a really ancient wood pasture where the trees are up to 1,000 years old. And the great thing about this wood pasture is that it's home to 8 of Scotland's 10 bat species, which is really, really impressive. And it just shows that wood pastures like this are really good habitats for a lot of our bats.
I can just hear some Arctic terns out there.
Nature is being protected and restored up and down Scotland for a whole range of species. But just this week, funding for restoration was pulled and redirected into council workers' pay. Environmental groups now want targets set in law.
We know now that Scotland is, relatively speaking, a nature-depleted country. Despite the beautiful countryside and environment that we have, and despite having lots of wildlife, it is a lot less than it should be. And we know that we are losing wildlife now.
Do these targets need to be achievable, or do they need to be stretching?
These targets need to be both stretching and challenging, but they also need to be achievable. And that's a really, really difficult balance to make.
It's a week until the Scottish Government sets out its legislative programme. Ministers insist nature will be a key consideration. Kevin Keane reporting Scotland.
To some news that's just coming into us, and 2 men have been charged in connection with a serious crash involving a police car on the M8. The collision occurred last month where a Mercedes hit an unmarked police car and another vehicle which were stopped on the hard shoulder near Junction 13 in Glasgow. 2 men, including a police officer, remain in hospital. Police said a 27-year-old man is due to appear in court tomorrow, while another man aged 33 has been reported to the Procurator Fiscal. Now, they are quite a sight, aren't they? And peacocks have a special place in the hearts of many Dunfermline residents. So much so, they're being awarded the Freedom of the City tonight. The birds have a long historical connection with the place, but they have in the recent past been subjected to attacks. The award, locals say, will give them their rightful recognition, as Maureen Kinnebra reports.
Peacocks were brought from India to Fife almost 120 years ago. Now they're being given the freedom of Dunfermline, official permission to wander Pittencrieff Park and beyond.
Everybody just absolutely loves them. They've been here for so long. Everybody's got childhood memories of coming down and seeing peacocks in the park. And over the last few years, you know, their popularity has grown. Everybody knows the individual birds and all their stories, and they're just loved. And it's just nice that they've got the recognition because they're so symbolic to Dunfermline.
Loved by many, but the birds have been persecuted in the past. 2 years ago, youths killed one peacock and injured another.
The attack was so bad that the response from members of the public was just out of this world. We would never be able to do what we've done here because of what had happened and the funding that a lot of the members of the public put in.
A treat to celebrate. The charity wants more help from dog owners and drivers to watch out for these protected birds. Maureen Kinnebra, reporting Scotland, Fife.
Feel a bit underdressed on seeing those peacocks.
I definitely do then.
How's the sport? It's the transfer window, isn't it?
Exactly. See, in the last few days, Laura, it's always going to get dramatic in the transfer window, that's for sure. Deadline coming in quick. Exactly. Thank you. Yes, hello there. The Celtic manager, Brendan Rodgers, says the club have signed a player with tremendous attributes after completing a season-long loan for Barcelona fullbacks Alex Valle. The Premiership champions announced the 20-year-old left-back's move with this video. Valle, who's been capped at youth level for Spain, will spend the next 10 months in Glasgow, and Rodgers has indicated there will be more arrivals at Parkhead before the transfer window shuts on Friday. Now, the Hearts head coach Stephen Naismith says he accepts the criticism of the club's fans after a poor run of form, but hopes that his team can upset Victoria Pilsen and reach the Europa League. The Tynecastle side trained this morning without Lon Shankland, who's a doubt for their playoff tie. Hearts lost the first leg 1-0 in the Czech Republic as they attempt to reach Europe's second top club competition. And what an opportunity to halt a pretty alarming start to their campaign. Well, Hearts had a terrific season last year, but they have had a slow start this time round. Look at their last 4 results. A league defeat to Dundee, then they were dumped out of the Cup by Falkirk. They went down 1-0 in the first leg of their Europa League qualifier, then another bad one on Sunday, losing 3-1 to Motherwell.
At the moment, that's one of our big problems. We're conceding cheaper goals than we have in the past, and we work hard on it. We have got some new players that have the ones at the weekend. It's Andreas and Gerald who drop off the line of the free kick, and that's what ultimately costs us. So we're working hard, but it's a process. You need to make sure your new players understand it and are ready for it.
There's a lot of criticism coming your way as well from the fans. Do you feel that that's merited?
When you're not winning games, there's going to be criticism. I think it's something, and especially being at a club the size of Hearts. If you don't win games, you'll be criticised, and that's the case. As I've said before in the past, I'm comfortable with that. But I think we have got a good group of players that can be successful.
Kilmarnock are also preparing for European action. They're trying to reach the Conference League, the competition Hearts will drop into if they lose to Pilsen. It was a frustrating night for Kelly in Denmark last week, losing a goal with 15 minutes to go and then another with the last kick of the game. It means that they need to overcome a 2-0 deficit to beat Copenhagen in Ayrshire tomorrow, and Derek McInnes wants to make it an uncomfortable night for the visitors.
It's a significant game, a significant fixture. It's an opportunity for us to try and deliver probably one of the biggest results in the club's history. I'm quite excited by the fact that we're getting that chance. But there's no doubt we need to try and make it awful for them tomorrow. We've got to try and make it their biggest nightmare. We've got to try and make it the game go our way. To do that, we're going to need to have everybody more or less at full throttle.
The Paralympics begin tonight, with organisers promising a spectacular opening ceremony on Paris's Champs-Élysées. Several Scots are in the British team, including wheelchair basketball player Robin Love. The 34-year-old from Ayrshire narrowly missed out on a medal at the Rio Games in 2016, but now she's ready to go one better and has a very different perspective on the competition since the birth of her daughter Alba, who'll be travelling to France to cheer on her mum.
I feel like now I'm going in with my eyes wide open. I'm going to just fully embrace everything. I think when you just try and be a bit more stoic, like, oh, don't get too hyper, don't enjoy it too much, focus on the performance. And I'm kicking myself now. I'm like, no, I'm going to enjoy it. To get a medal in a team sport is just a battle. You are battling. The women's game has just improved so much. So to kind of get that almost, I guess, reward for all the hard work would just be amazing. Who would we be to not follow our dreams and our passions, and at the same time telling Alba to do the same thing? We want her to know that the world, if you work hard enough, the world can be yours, and we think that we're doing a decent job of showing her that. But so far, she's been to China, she's been to Japan. I think she's got more stamps on her passport than me. She's and she's a trooper all at the same time. So I certainly hope she looks back upon her journey to Paris 24 and sees how incredible it's been and how much she's contributed towards our success as a team, because she truly is, part of the squad.
And a massive good luck to
Absolutely.
Laura. And before I go, Laura, as well, some transfer news. Scotland striker Lyndon Dykes has completed a move to League One side Birmingham City.
Oh, interesting. Thanks, Lewis.
Thank you.
Now, before we head to the weather, jewellery worn by a Scottish woman of wealth during the Bronze Age is going on show for the first time in 4,000 years. Pieces of the necklace and bracelets were discovered in 1870 in a burial site at the former Balgay estate near Dundee. Experts from National Museums Scotland have combined the original beads with recreations to return the items to their original state. And you can see more on that story over on the 9 on the BBC Scotland channel tonight. And now Chris is here with the weather. Hello.
Hiya. Some lovely pictures from our weather watchers last night of the aurora, potentially once again on show tonight. Thank you. Very good evening to you. Today was pretty cloudy at times, wasn't it, with some outbreaks of rain developing through the afternoon. In fact, let me show you the radar from the last few hours. You can see we've had this band pushing up towards the east coast, some heavy rain in Aberdeen, and also this band pushing in from the west. And over the next few hours, it's with us for a time, but then clears, leaving many areas dry with some clear skies overnight. Temperatures a little bit lower than last night, down to around 8 to 11 Celsius. And then by the end of the night, more cloud pushing in off the Atlantic with some showers. That's how we start the day tomorrow. And through the course of Thursday, we'll see those showers merging at times to a longer spell of rain, chiefly across the northwest, but into the afternoon, 1 or 2 in towards the central lowlands and further south as well. By mid-afternoon, yes, we'll have a scattering of showers, but equally there should be some bright or sunny spells in the mix as well. Catch one of those showers, could be heavy, perhaps even the odd rumble of thunder. Temperatures a little bit lower than today, 15 to 18 Celsius. Around the west and northwest coast, we've got a breeze, moderate in strength, coming in from the west-southwest, and those showers still with us in the Northern Isles. Tomorrow evening, those showers fading, although holding on in the far north and Northern Isles. Clear skies, and that means cooler than this coming night. So this is tomorrow night. Temperatures in towns and cities at times into mid-single digits. That takes us to Friday, and a few showers in the far north once again, but elsewhere dry, some morning sunshine, then the clouds tending to bubble up as we head through towards the afternoon. So probably not wall-to-wall sunshine, shouldn't spoil things too much, that cloud, but altogether not too bad, 17 to 18 degrees. And then the weekend, high pressure is with us, so largely dry with actually some warm sunshine. In fact, take a look at this. Lots of locations on the chart there, but all saying the same thing. Some sunshine and temperatures at times into the low 20s. Not bad. Now, we've been waiting all summer for an Azores high, and it's turning up next week as we start September. But hopefully that high pressure that's arriving at the weekend sticks with us into next week too. That's the forecast for now.
It's looking up. Thanks, Christopher. Now, before we go, just some breaking news coming in. Inverness Caledonian Thistle has announced that an amicable deal has been struck that saves the club from administration after an 11th hour campaign. More on that on the late news tonight. In the meantime, good night.